All right, welcome back. We continue right here. Bob Pompeani with you till 11 o'clock, and then tune in 11 o'clock on KDKA-TV. Rich Walsh live at PPG Paints Arena, where the Penguins have tasted something they haven't tasted a lot of in the last 2.5, 3 years, and that would be losing a series. Winning 9 in a row and then losing finally to the Washington Capitals, and now move on to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Line one we go. It's Don in Swickley. Hey, Don, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Bob? First-time caller.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Listen, I was telling the guy that I talked to before, I was really upset where the Penguins, they couldn't get past that blue line. They had the hardest time getting past that.
Yeah,
blue
Washington
line.
was playing a trap.
Yeah.
They were really trying to make the Penguins get frustrated and turn the puck over, which they did a lot.
Yeah. Well, what I didn't understand was when we had the puck and we're bringing it down and it's wide open, and it happened at least 8 or 9 times, they changed, and they just hit the puck down, and the Capitals took it and brought it right back. You know what I mean? When it's wide open like that, why don't they keep, bringing it down?
All I know is that the Capitals played a beautiful road game for what they were.
Oh, yeah, they do. They're good.
Especially what they were missing. They were missing 3 of their regular players, and they just broke it down into something very defensive and waited for their opportunities. And when they got them, they took advantage of it. But having said that, thanks, Don, for the call. We do appreciate it. Kunak will hit the goalpost in overtime. If that goes in, they win that game, and there's a Game 7. And who knows what happens after that. It's that close. Danny in Pittsburgh. Hey, Danny, how you doing?
Good, Bob. I just want to talk about the Penguins look pretty dead, and the defense looked really bad, especially Mata and Letang.
I think it's a lot of hockey, though. We've talked about fatigue. They've played over 300 games, 317 or something like that in 3 years. That's a lot of hockey, very little downtime. I think like anybody that, especially with guys who get a lot of ice time, as those guys do, that takes a toll on you. It does. It may not reflect itself in, to the naked eye, but it's just little things, sloppiness, turnovers. And I think we saw a lot of that throughout the course of the season and into this postseason. They have enough talent to overcome some of it, but tonight it was just too much to overcome. Rich in Altoona. What's up, Rich? How you doing?
I'm good, Bob. Hey, I agree with you there. I've said it publicly here, too, about the fatigue factor. They've squeezed almost 4 years of hockey into 3 years. A lot of games. And defensively, man, they got to do something in the offseason. Too many odd man breaks. The breakaway goal Sunday night tied it, and then the breakaway goal in overtime tonight. Defense has been a big problem, and they have enough offense, and I think the goaltending's fine. You've got to shore up the defense. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a 5-man unit when you're on the ice, but I think the biggest perpetrator there has been Chris Letang. But you saw what he can do offensively when he gets a goal, and he's capable of turning the game around positively too. But when he gets out of position, it opens things up for other teams. And if you're good and you're counterattack and spot that, you can make the Penguins play. Like I said, Mata's under contract long-term. Dumoulin long-term. Schultz long-term. I got to say, Schultz did not have that impressive of a postseason, in my opinion, this year. Letang long-term. Oleksiak has another year, I think, on his contract. So they have enough. They just need depth guys. And they have some in their organization who they like. Frankie Corrado's a guy they like. Andre Pedin they acquired in the trade with Vancouver.
Right.
So we'll see. There's always somebody who comes out of nowhere who will make the team too. But I wish that Daniel Sprong would play from the start next year and have a spot on this team. And that means probably they're going to have to move somebody. They're going to lose Hagelin likely. I don't think they'll retain him at his salary. They may trade one of their bigger pieces. Who knows? And I'm talking about, when I say bigger pieces, a Connor Sherry who makes $3 million, but he's a young guy who has energy and can go to a team and help. You may even get inquiries about Phil Kessel. And Daniel Sprong has the kind of talent who could come in and play that kind of hockey if they trust him. And that's going to be the question.
Did you notice anything wrong with Kessel, or did you think there was anything wrong with him in this series?
Yes, I would be shocked if we found out he was healthy. I don't know what, but, like I said, we'll have post-game reaction at 11. We'll see if there's anything out of there. But
I agree.
There's something not right with him, and I think it showed. Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. Let's go out to Joe in Pittsburgh. Joe, thank you for calling the Sports Call. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, Bob. I think you hit the nail on the head with the Penguins being tired with 300 games, and also I don't think Kessel or Malkin was themselves. I think they were hurt. So, and again, great series.
Yeah, it was. It was fun to watch. They provided a lot of entertaining hockey for sure over the last 2.5 years, so you should be thankful for that. And you can't win them all. It's as simple as that. It's a very competitive league, and teams close the gap. There are a lot of teams now just as fast, if not faster than Penguins, and that's what they did. They showed that was the kind of hockey that was necessary to win. They did it, and other teams started to do it. JR in Cooperstown. Hey, JR, how you doing tonight?
Good. I just have a question about the Pirates. What position players and whom could the Pirates obtain to stay near the top or be at the top of the division?
You want them to make a trade for somebody? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Well, who would you give up? It has to start there.
They're not going to
do that.
Young pitchers, I guess.
Well, I don't think, if anything right now, they should just be patient with what they have. They've already traded away Garrett Cole and Andrew McCutchen. I think at the trade deadline it'll be very interesting to see what they do, where they are, and who goes if they're not in contention. Although right now, like I said, they've done well in the Central Division, 10-3. They've won every series against teams in their own division. That's how you climb the ladder. But I like their lineup. I think Dickerson has been much better than maybe people thought. His defense has impressed me. Still think erratic describes Gregory Polanco. I still think erratic at times describes Marte in his base running and sometimes his defense, even though he's a Gold Glover in left field, not so much in center. What they do at third, eventually with Jung Ho Gung, we'll see. But they got some. They may trade Mercer at the deadline if they're not competitive. So we'll see. We got to go to a break. We'll take it. Come back with more.